stuck in that position for going on 23 hours now. Makes it very difficult for him.
Only a single rescuer can get in the space called Bob's Push.
Pepper Sauce Cave, a father-son birthday trip, turns into a cold nightmare. It was June 25th, 2004. Dan Garrison wanted to make his son Justin's 11th birthday unforgettable. So he took him to Pepper Sauce Cave in Arizona. It was hot outside, nearly 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So a cave adventure sounded like the perfect way to beat the heat. But things went sideways fast. Dan, overconfident from exploring the cave years ago, made two critical errors. He didn't bring extra batteries for their flashlights, and he didn't tell anyone where they were going. No backup plan, no lifeline, just a father and son walking into the dark. At first, it felt like a dream. Cool air, twisting limestone passages, hidden chambers. They crawled, climbed, and laughed through the maze. They even found the book room, a chamber where visitors sign a logbook. They scribbled their names down with pride. But as the hours ticked by and hunger kicked in, Dan decided it was time to head back. Only they couldn't find the way. The cave had turned on them. Every tunnel looked the same. What once seemed like a thrilling maze now felt like a trap. They tried retracing their steps, but it was hopeless. The same passageways looped back, splitting into 3 or 4 more. By the time Dan checked his watch again, it was 4 p.m. They'd been inside for hours, and the temperature had dropped to a bone-chilling 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Their flashlights were already dimming. Dan tried to stay strong for Justin, but the truth was brutal. They were lost. Completely, and no one even knew they were missing. They ended up back in the book room to regroup. They used a compass to try mapping where they'd been. It helped, but not much. The tunnels blended together like some cruel optical illusion. By 10 p.m., things had grown desperate. Snacks were gone. Water was almost out. Fatigue was settling in. Dan found a patch of soft sand for Justin to rest on. The kid curled up using his jacket as a pillow. The cold bit into their skin, and then the lights died. Pitch black. No sound except for dripping water. Total darkness. They huddled in silence until morning. 19 hours underground. Then Justin had an idea. Simple, but genius. "Let's listen for dripping water," he said. And sure enough, in the silence, they heard it. That sound led them deeper toward a fixed rope, one they'd used to descend the day before. They followed it up. Dan recognized a rock formation from earlier. They navigated carefully, using their crude map and memory. After nearly 24 hours in that cold, lightless trap, they saw a sliver of blue sky ahead. Sunlight. They walked out, exhausted but alive. No one had searched for them. No one knew they'd even gone in. Devil's Den Cave, a narrow crack and a terrifying trap. April 9th, 2005. Devil's Den Cave, tucked in the Ozarks, is no beginner's playground. But 20-year-old Richard Hears felt confident, maybe too confident. He led 12 kids aged 8 to 12 into the cave for a short 3-hour trip. They had helmets, flashlights, water, snacks, the basics, nothing more. Everything was going smoothly until they reached a vertical crack, only about 10 inches wide, just tall enough to stand in if you squeezed through sideways. Richard remembered getting through this crack before, so he had the kids go through first. They all made it. One by one, they slipped through, crawling into the next tunnel. Then it was Richard's turn. He started through the narrow vertical fissure, twisting and compressing his body to fit, but halfway in, he stopped, completely stuck. The stone pressed against his chest, squeezed his ribs, held his hips in a vice grip. He couldn't move forward or backward. And just like that, he became a human wall, cutting off 12 children from the outside world. Panic kicked in. His breathing turned shallow, his limbs tingled from the pressure, and beyond the stone wall, a dozen terrified kids sat in silence, realizing their guide was trapped. Time slowed. Minutes turned to hours, and then came the real danger. The cold. Inside the cave, it was 55 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to drain warmth from a motionless body. The kids began shivering. Some started falling asleep, but not from exhaustion. Hypothermia was kicking in. Richard tried to stay calm. told the kids to huddle together, tried to shift his hips, wriggle free. Nothing worked. Melissa Jones, another instructor, had been waiting outside the cave. The group wasn't due back until 3 p.m., so she had no clue anything was wrong until that deadline passed. Rescue teams eventually made it down, but the situation was grim. They tried chiseling the rock, but every blow echoed dangerously. They risked collapsing the fissure. Eventually, a specialized rescue team arrived. They used nylon webbing and climbing gear to gently lift Richard, inch by inch, into a slightly wider space. They even cut his jeans to remove extra bulk. After 5 brutal hours, he came free. His legs were numb. His body was in shock. The pain as blood returned to his limbs was indescribable. Outside, the kids were rushed to medics. 2 were taken straight to the hospital for hypothermia, but all survived. Richard did too, but his injuries were serious. His neck and lower body showed early signs of compression syndrome, a condition that, if not caught, can cause organ failure. He learned the hard way that in caves, size matters, and a few extra pounds can mean life or death. The cave flooded in and left behind. March 2004. Deep in Mexico's Salina region, the Combined Services Caving Association, veterans and service members from the UK, descended into Qualot Cave. Their goal was simple: reach Camp 1, do some survey work, and get out. They were prepared. Radios, food, gear, everything. They'd done this before. Then the rains came. On March 17th, rescue crews on the surface realized the cave entrance had flooded. A dangerous sump had formed, sealing off the team inside, and the water was rising. For days, they waited underground. Conditions worsened. Food ran low. Air grew thick. Sleep came in fits. Humidity soaked their clothes and chilled their bones. Outside, Mexican officials scrambled for solutions. British divers Rick Stanton and Jason Mallinson were brought in. By March 25th, they made their move. The dive was terrifying. Tight, silted passages with zero visibility. But they reached Camp 1. The trapped cavers were exhausted and desperate. One by one, they guided them out through flooded tunnels. 9 hours later, they emerged, physically unharmed, emotionally wrecked. Then came the twist. Mexican authorities detained the team, accused them of illegal research, even espionage. With radon testing equipment found in their packs, suspicions grew. They were deported, banned from Mexico, all after surviving a life-threatening flood. Gage Caverns, a deadly horizontal trap. October 7th, 2001. 5 friends explored Gage Caverns in upstate New York. One of them, Shio Kudo, noticed a narrow crack just off the amphitheater chamber, about 2 feet wide, barely 18 inches high. She was the smallest, so she volunteered to squeeze in. At first, it seemed fine, but a few feet in, the tunnel bent sharply to the right. She twisted her body and got stuck. The bend forced her ribs into the rock. She couldn't breathe, couldn't go forward, couldn't back out. Her friends tried pulling her legs. No luck. She was locked in, twisted sideways, ribs crushed against jagged stone. Her breaths got shorter. Her limbs went numb. Rescue teams eventually arrived with drills and chisels. It took over 8 hours of painstaking work, chipping away rock around her torso. When they finally pulled her free, her body was bruised, her side numb, and her breathing ragged. She survived, barely. Bear Hollow Rift, the rockhorn that broke a man. November 25th, 2006. 8 cavers descended into Bear Hollow Rift, one of the roughest cave systems in America. Among them, Jay Jordan. Jordan struggled with gear weight, wetsuit bulk, and exhaustion. He got separated and tried to climb out on his own. At the top of a 45-foot vertical shaft, he hit the rockhorn, a sharp, fixed stone that blocked the exit tunnel. His rope setup wasn't flexible enough. He was pinned. For hours he tried. His body trembled, his strength drained. Then he fell. Not a free fall, but enough to leave him helpless at the bottom. Rescue teams spent the next day chiseling that rockhorn. When they pulled him free, he was alive, but barely conscious, trapped for over 20 hours. His body had nothing left. The worst part was that Jordan could see the way out, just a few feet beyond that jagged ledge, but no matter how hard he twisted or pulled, he couldn't get past it. His legs were shaking uncontrollably by the time his grip slipped. He'd burned through every calorie, every drop of energy, and slid back down the rope like a marionette with cut strings. At the bottom, he didn't move for almost 10 minutes. His team thought he'd passed out, or worse. When he finally whispered that he was still awake, it was a whisper so faint they almost missed it. The cave was so narrow that medics had to leave behind their stretchers and go in with just emergency packs and headlamps. Rescuers wrapped him in thermal blankets, held water to his lips, and spoke to him gently, over and over, to keep him conscious. His arms had turned a bluish tint. The cold had crept in deep. His wetsuit, soaked with cave water, felt like ice against his skin. Even after the rock horn was chipped away, it still took another hour to get him past the lip. His limbs just wouldn't respond. The rescuers practically carried him, one slow breath at a time, through that brutal final crawl. When he finally surfaced, his pupils didn't react to the sunlight. He was lifted out more like a relic than a man, silent, limp, nearly gone. Medics rushed him to the nearest station where it took IV fluids, heated blankets, and 2 hours before he could even form a full sentence. What he remembered most? The silence. The terrifying, endless silence of knowing help was so far away, and the rock above didn't care if he made it or not. Immache Cave, a giant catfish, and a narrow escape. August 15th, 1992, David, an adrenaline junkie from Alabama, dove into Immache Cave illegally, hunting a legendary catfish. Inside, he and his friend swam deeper into the flooded cave until David realized his air was low. They tried to turn back, but hit a ceiling of solid rock. The water turned murky, zero visibility. They got separated. David surfaced into a tiny air pocket, alone. His friend escaped and called for help. Rescue teams gave up, until cave expert Buddy Lane stepped in. He convinced authorities to lower the lake level by 14 inches. After 17 hours, they heard David's voice, alive but barely. He had treaded water for nearly a full day. Buddy got him out, and somehow, David lived. Immache Cave, a 15-foot fall that changed everything. September 2014, Cecilio Lopez, a world-renowned Spanish caver, led a team into Peru's deadly Immache Cave. They were on a mission to explore potential archaeological wonders. Then tragedy struck. Cecilio's anchor failed. He plummeted 15 feet, smashing into the cave floor. Broken ribs, spinal injury, completely immobilized. For 5 days, he lay in agony in a narrow shaft, while teammates worked to summon help. News spread globally. Spain sent a rescue team. Volunteers flew in. After 2 grueling weeks, they finally lifted him out, alive, but forever changed. What few people know is that during those endless hours underground, Cecilio drifted in and out of consciousness, hearing the cave groan around him as if the rock itself were breathing. His teammates tried to comfort him, reading messages from loved ones sent via radio relays to keep his mind sharp. Every small sound, a falling pebble, a distant drip, made them all freeze, terrified that a collapse could trap them forever. As supplies dwindled, rescuers rationed water and moved equipment through tunnels barely wide enough for a single person to pass. The cold seeped into Cecilio's bones, and rescuers covered him with whatever insulating materials they had, including spare ropes and even their own jackets. At one point, a storm outside sent floodwater trickling into parts of the cave, forcing the team to halt progress for nearly a day while monitoring rising water levels. Despite the grim conditions, Cecilio kept up his spirit, cracking quiet jokes through clenched teeth to keep morale from sinking. Doctors later said his survival bordered on impossible, given the crushing pressure on his chest and the constant threat of infection. When he finally emerged into daylight, the cheers from dozens of rescuers echoed through the mountains, a sound he would later describe as the loudest silence I've ever heard. His recovery took months, but he never resented the cave. only respected it more. Even from his hospital bed, he told friends that exploration was worth the risks, because discovery always came at a price. And though permanently marked by the fall, Cecilio's determination never faded. He vowed he would one day return to the world beneath the earth, even if only in spirit. These stories are more than cautionary tales. They're survival epics, reminders that caves, beautiful, mysterious, and alluring, are also merciless. One misstep, one forgotten flashlight, one overconfident decision, and the cave takes control. Some make it out, others don't. And sometimes, like with Richard, it's not the fall, the flood, or the darkness. It's a narrow crack and a trapped neck, moments away from becoming the most horrific neck injury ever caught underground. If this video gripped you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more spine-chilling survival stories, and share this with someone who thinks caves are just a walk in the park. Stay safe and respect the darkness.